Hello. So today I have Mr. Ankur Bariku. He is an internet entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, active blogger, co-founder and former CEO of nearby.com. And do check his YouTube channel. I have added the link in the description. So welcome to the show, Ankur. It's been a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
I still remember since 2012, I showed your videos to thousands of chartered accountants whom I take these public speaking classes. And I'm asking for your dates since 2016. So it's been like 4 years now.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that we finally got around to speaking. Thank you so much, Anurag.
Yeah. So before I plunge into the professional part of your career, as always, I would ask you to tell us about your formative years in Delhi, how you grew up, your siblings, what influence did your parents have on you?
So I was born in Amritsar, Anurag. My dad had a traveling sales job. तो वो हर 6-8 महीने में move करते थे. And I was born in Amritsar. We stayed a while in Lucknow, and then we moved to Delhi when I was 3 years old. So for all technical purposes, while I belong from Kashmir, I call myself a Delhiite because that's how my mannerisms, my taste, my bolchal, everything is. And very middle class family, very hand to mouth existence. कभी ज़्यादा पैसा नहीं था, कभी ज़्यादा free to do whatever you want to do. Everything was about save. Everything was about see how we're spending it, where we're spending it. We saw some very tough times while growing up. My dad lost his job and so on. But one thing that I uh, I have to thank my parents for forever and the rest of my life is they never compromised on my sister and my education. We always went to really good schools. I have a younger sister. She's 6 years old, as in she's 6 years younger to me. And we went to convent schools. We had the best education possible, and pura ghar pe bringing, even today when there are all these social media things that keep happening, and yahan kuch kisi ne bol diya, wahan kisi ne kuch bol diya. My mom and dad always tell me this one thing, which I think they've always told me all through growing up, and that is the world will see you for what you're good at. The world will see you for what you can achieve, but your job is to always remain humble. Always remember where you've come from. And I think that's the only big thing that I constantly keep hearing from my parents, even today when I'm 40 and I have 2 kids. They make it a point to keep telling me, always stay humble, always stay humble. And thankfully, I've listened.
Also, you spoke about convent education. So tell us about your years in Don Bosco, Delhi, and your biggest takeaways from convent to school. And I am quite excited because I also am from a Don Bosco school. So I studied in Don Bosco, Lilwa for 13 years. It's in Kolkata, Howrah district. And so I'm like 5 years junior to you that way.
Yeah. So yeah, Don Bosco was good fun because no, in hindsight, it was the genesis of everything that I have done in life now. So two things really helped. One was because it was an all boys school, which back then seemed like a disaster, by the way. But today, when I reflect back on it, I realized that because I grew up with just boys for almost 12 years of my life, I know and understand the mentality of boys and men very well. And that helps because no, I'm able to say this like it's a guy thing. तुम्हें शायद समझ नहीं आएगा. It's a very guy thing. So I'm able to navigate through that contours of what is a guy thing. But two, which is the biggest thing, is I was a very, very shy kid, Anurag. I was terrified of speaking on stage. I was shit scared of speaking in front of even a class.
No one can believe this today
And
if they were to see you.
no, and whenever people say this, like whenever people ask me, ki, sir, I want to become a great speaker like you, or Ankur, you're just so good. How can you get there? I always give them just one answer, which is whatever you see today, it is 20 years in the making. And it has taken me that long to get there because I was a really shy. I still am a very introverted person, and people think like I'm बहुत extrovert हूँ, लोगों से ये वो वगैरह वगैरह. But personally, I love spending time with myself. And in 11th, we were to give a farewell to the 12th class seniors, and they were looking for someone to MC the farewell ceremony. And us point pe, I don't know what came over me, but I was like, yeah, is dar ko marna padega. So I then volunteered to become an MC for the 12th class farewell, which is a pretty big deal. Like, it used to be one of the biggest ceremonies in school and was a pretty big deal and so on. So at the age of 15, I went on stage in front of almost the entire school. And I'm very certain I did a really poor job, but that was the start of me loving public speaking, of me becoming an active public speaker. And my public speaking is 100% attributed to that opportunity I picked up when in school at Don Bosco.
Amazing. So I think public speaking is something Don Bosco gives you. When I had also gone to IIM Ahmedabad, and people used to tell me in the classroom that, how are you so bold? I say, I'm from Don Bosco. You can't expect anything but boldness in public speaking if you are from Don Bosco. Yeah.
That's true.
So your aunt gifted you a big book of space when you were in grade 5. And from then to dreaming about landing on Mars. And I was telling my daughter today, and she was started laughing at how can someone dream of landing on Mars. Then you actually went to Michigan State University for your PhD, astrophysics. So as exotic as it might sound. So please tell us about that entire journey, your dreams, what went through.
Sure. No, I love the research that you've done. Thank you for that. So it's true. In class 5, my Masi, she on my birthday gifted me a big book of space. And it was a really big book. And it was all about space and astronomy, solar system, and satellites and astronauts and aliens. And I was just completely blown away. I fell in love with it, Anurag. And I was like, man, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to become an astronaut. I want to go into space. And I was one of those rare kids then who very clearly knew what they wanted to do in life, and very early on. So school mein, if you were to today ask anyone, hey, do you remember Ankur Warikoo from school? And if they say yes, and if you ask them, what do you remember of him? Almost everyone, I'm sure, will say he wanted to go to NASA. Because shuru se almost everyone in school knew of that. And I started preparing for it. It was the only goal that I had. Go to the US for a PhD, join NASA as a space scientist, finally go to Mars as an astronaut. And everything that I didn't like was towards that. So to the point that you were making, I got through Michigan State University. I was the first person in my entire family to ever go out of the country to study. It happened on a full scholarship. So it was a big deal. I was getting paid a very generous stipend, which was again a very big deal because we had never any money. Like I remember my dad, he took a loan to pay for the one-way ticket to the US. We didn't have any money, nothing whatsoever. I landed in the US with $200 in my pocket. And that was the only money that I had, which was all gifts that relatives had given before you go and so on.
This is so Bollywood.
And I went, yeah, exactly. Like, no, it is almost like there, but nothing like that happened. Like, I didn't become rich out of that 200. So वो Bollywood की story सिर्फ वो गरीबियत तक की है, पर अमीर में नहीं translate हुई. But what happened is, I landed in Michigan State. I was good at what I was doing. I was good at physics. I loved physics. I understood it. I got it. But I also realized, Anurag, it was not something that made me happy. Like अंदर से वो एक खुशी जो होती है, I somehow lost it. And maybe it was because space or astronomy was like a childhood crush, and I outgrew that at some point of time, and I realized that wasn't me anymore. But I just had this feeling that this is something I'm good at. It's not something that makes me happy. So I have to now ask myself this question: what do I do from here? Do I continue doing what I'm doing, knowing it might not ever make me happy? Or do I pursue happiness? And that is why, in a very bold decision, and one of the best decisions that I've taken in my life, I dropped out of my PhD and came back to India.
And mom, dad were like, सोच समझ के कुछ नहीं कर सकता.
Devastated. त्राही. Like वो कहते हैं ना कि दुनिया कोलैप्स हो गई. वो जितना बड़ा भूकंप आ सकता था उनकी जिंदगी में आ गया. They were devastated. They were absolutely angry. They were very mad at me. They didn't understand what I was doing. They felt it was a really bad decision. And understandably, because in 2000, this is 2004 I'm talking about. 2004 mein, no one left education. And definitely not if you are on a scholarship paid program in the US. So to drop that and to come back to India, I was like, who does that? Like literally, who does that? So there was almost everyone in my world that was like, this is a bad decision. You're going to repent it. You're going to resent it. Thankfully, I stand here today saying that it is the best decision I've taken, and it worked out.
Fantastic. And then you were one of the early adopters of the ISB course, 2005. It's like way back when people would not have even thought of the 1-year MBA. And you're extremely passionate about ISB. I mean, that brand ISB is something so close to your heart. So what exactly did ISB do to you to transform you, that bring that kind of a passion?
So, and that's a terrific question, Anurag. When I came back from the US, I was 24 years of age. I had my life completely disrupted. I had no plan, no direction, nothing whatsoever, and not even a job. Like it wasn't that I was earning. It wasn't that I had wealth. It wasn't that I knew what I wanted to do. Like, so it's absolutely clueless. And at 24, at least back then, even now to some extent, people were largely settled. My friends from school and college, they had jobs. Some of them were even married. They were living their life. So it was like the world had moved on and I was still stuck and I had nowhere to go. And people were like, look, you are confused. So why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA. And I was like, yeah, I am from Delhi University. So I know what the MBA cat race is all about. And I've seen my friends like slog it out. I am Jana and Kanna, and it's just so hard. And so on. So I didn't know whether it was the right thing for me. And 2 years seemed like too much of an investment of time and money. And then serendipitously, like very luckily, I came across ISB. It was a 5-year-old school. So very young, as you mentioned, very expensive, 14 lakh rupees back in 2005, like really expensive. And we didn't have that kind of money.
You took a loan.
And yes, of course, I had to. Like we had to take a loan. And I remember going to my dad and saying, I got through ISB. I also made it through some other schools. But it was very clear that ISB is where I wanted to go. 1-year program, work experience people, and so on. So I went to dad and I was like, no, I've got through this school and I really want to go through it, but it's an expensive one and we'll have to take a loan. And he's like, 14 lakh rupees? Like, itna loan to Variku Khandan ne aaj tak zindagi mein nahi diya. Like, agar hum lena bhi chahte the, koi hame deta hi nahi, kyunki hamari औकात hi nahi thi 14 lakh ka loan lene ki. So people, he was like, no, I am glad that there is no collateral or anything, but no, you are on your own. Like, there is nothing that I can do to save you if this ship goes down. So you do know what you're going to, but at the end of it, it's your call. And I took that loan, and I remember like this is my first, one of the first instances of me using a mental model to take a decision. And the decision was, should I go to ISB or not? And it was not an easy decision to make because I had choices of going to really good schools and paying far, far, far lesser. But the way that I thought about this was, before ISB, the only job that I ever had, which was for 1 year, was a job that used to pay me 14,000 rupees in hand per month. Like that was my salary, my first salary, 14,000 rupees in hand. And the EMI of the ISB loan was 20,000 rupees a month. So I asked myself, if I go to ISB, can I get a job that pays me 34,000 rupees per month, which is the 14 that I was already earning, plus the 20 that I have to pay? And if the answer is yes, then I have to ask myself a much harder question, which is, will I be okay getting a 34,000 rupee job from ISB? Will I be okay socially, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially? Like, will I be okay telling people that I've got a job which pays me just 34,000 rupees and going to ISB? Because a lot of people will just laugh at me. They'll be like, itni dur ISB jaane ki zarurat hi kya thi agar 35,000 ki naukri chahiye thi. So all of that social pressure, anxiety, FOMO, and I found myself saying, absolutely, I'll be okay doing that. So that made the decision so easy for me because I optimized for what is possibly the worst case scenario and then asked myself, am I okay with doing that? And when I landed at ISB, to the question that you asked, because I had this mental makeup, ki I'm not here to get a job, I'm not here to get a career or a profession or a company or a title. I'm genuinely here to find myself. Who am I? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What is it that I should be doing in life? What are things that I should not be doing in life? I devoted myself to that search. I was okay academically, not the best in class, but not like the worst also. And I put myself in every possible dimension. I was part of every club, not in any leadership position, but I was just helping wherever I could. I was participating in competitions. I was helping with admissions. I was doing everything that I could in that 1 year because I desperately wanted to know, who am I? What am I good at? And that 1 year, the reason why I continue being such a strong supporter of ISB is because it gave me every possible opportunity to explore myself. It gave me every possible thing that I could have asked for and more. And I will always be in debt to that school because that 1 year just fundamentally changed me. Absolutely changed me.
And in that 1 year, a lot of girls smitten by your looks would have asked for coffee dates as well.
No, nothing like that. Yeah, I did have a circle of a really good friend network comprising both men and women, but I was already dating my to-be wife, so I think everything was just very focused.
All right. So post ISB, did you get a job worth 34,000? So you landed up with NIS, Sparta, then AT Kearney, and Accenture, and Rocket Internet. So did that break even happen immediately?
Yeah, it happened immediately. Yeah, it happened in far better ways than I anticipated. So right after ISB, I joined a management consulting firm called AT Kearney, and I had no idea about the company before I went to ISB. मुझे idea भी नहीं था कि ऐसी कोई company exist करती है. The only management consulting firm that I knew of was McKinsey, and they didn't hire me. So I was like, okay, we'll see. And AT Kearney was just brilliant. Yeah, it paid me really, really well. I got to work with super smart people. I got to work with really challenging projects. I got exposed to real world business for the first time. And I just thoroughly enjoyed my 3 years. And along with AT Kearney, then after a year and a half, I started working with my batchmate from ISB on a startup idea and after a year and a half, I took the leap. I quit consulting full time and joined the startup. And that was Accentium Web, which built multiple websites. The big one of that became Gaadi.com. And then the journey of an entrepreneur started in 2009.
And then you met your co-founders in Groupon India. Was that more of serendipity? And what were your lessons from Groupon, rechristened as Nearby? You would have highs and lows because internet, every youngster feels internet is like having an idea, going out there, getting $1 million of VC money, getting ET coverage, or bas theek hai, cash burn karna hai, and then we'll have the next round. Pre-series, Series A, Series B.
Bilkul. So yeah, the journey of Groupon was really interesting. I learned so much, and I realized I know so little. The first set of teams were executives that I brought on board because I was the CEO of the company, so I had to hire a team, and the first few people just came from the network. I remember the current CEO of Nearby, Ravi, who is a co-founder as well and has been with the company for 8 years. He's the best friend of my batchmate from ISB. So that's how I got to know of him. Because my batchmate, who I'm good friends with, he was like, hey, I have someone that I think will be really good for you. The other co-founder, who's now the COO of Nearby, Snehesh, he was best friends with the brother of one of the co-founders of Nearby. So it's all in the network. Like kahin se jaake, you just find smart people all around, and that's how it works. And the journey taught me a lot. And when we did rechristian Groupon to Nearby, when we did the management buyout in 2015, it was not as easy as we thought, and we felt it's just a name change, and everyone who's been using Groupon, we will tell them that no, it's become Nearby, everything remains the same. But it's remarkable how many people still till date 2020 call us Groupon and not call us Nearby, and that taught me a lot. We had massive highs and lows. We raised a lot of money from Sequoia, and we burned through that money really fast. We went through a really tough time where the markets dried up and funding was not there. We had made some really bad calls. I, as the CEO, had faltered on multiple grounds. We had to lay off people. We had to get our shit together and get our act together. And those were very testing times. And I learned a lot about myself, my management style, my leadership, how it worked, why it didn't work, what were the things that I had to fix, so on. And then we became profitable in 2019 after 4 years, which literally took everything possible, like everything possible that was needed to make it happen, we had to put in.
I can see some
and I also felt lots of it, बिल्कुल मतलब in 9 सालों में मैं इतना बूढ़ा हो गया जितना मैं कभी नहीं हुआ. And of course age is also catching up, but it just felt like the right time. It just felt like the right time to move on. I have a terrific team in Ravi and Snehesh that can take the company forward. I get to play some sort of a contributing role as a board member, but I don't necessarily have to run the company on a daily basis. So it's a good spot to be in, and I'm glad that I took that decision as well.